Coffee can increase fat burning on its own, but the right additions can multiply that effect by as much as 600%, and the wrong ones can cancel it out completely. So in this video, I'm going to show you the best additions to upgrade your coffee's fat burning power, starting with level 1 and then moving all the way to level 6, with each level activating a stronger fat burning effect on the last, and multiple levels can be combined. Let's go. To start, let's talk about a spice that was once worth more than gold. Centuries ago, it was one of the most valuable commodities in the world. Entire trade routes were built around it. Empires fought to control it. And today, most people keep it sitting in the back of their spice cabinet. I'm talking about cinnamon. Cinnamon has many health benefits, but the one we care about most here is how it affects the way that your body handles sugar after a meal. So when you eat carbohydrates, things like toast or cereal or muffin or oatmeal, a lot of standard breakfast foods, they break down into sugar in your bloodstream. Your body responds by releasing a hormone called insulin. Insulin's job is to move that sugar out of the bloodstream and then into your cells so it can be used for energy. But while insulin is elevated, fat burning slows down. It's because your body will burn incoming sugar first before it starts tapping into the storage supply of fat. But cinnamon helps your cells respond to insulin more efficiently. That means your body can handle the same amount of sugar with less insulin, allowing fat burning to continue more easily or sooner after the sugar is gone. Some studies have even compared cinnamon's effect on blood sugar, its control of it, to diabetes medications like metformin, which shows just how powerful that the simple kitchen spice can be. As for how much to use, this is where most people mess it up. They add just a tiny dusting on top, and that's still better than nothing. But on top of the coffee, to expect a real effect, research shows that the stronger metabolic benefits are generally when you use about 1 to 2 teaspoons per day, not just a sprinkle. So a good practice and a good practical target is about 1 teaspoon in your morning coffee. Could be a lot depending on the size of it. So you could split that amount across more than 1 cup. So if you're drinking multiple cups in the morning, kind of spread it out. And then keep in mind that the type matters. I would suggest that you want to look for Ceylon cinnamon, sometimes called true cinnamon. Most grocery store cinnamon is acacia cinnamon. Now, they're both beneficial, but it contains a much higher level of a compound called coumarin. You maybe heard of it. That compound can put stress on the liver when it's used in large amounts regularly. But the Ceylon version of cinnamon contains much less of the coumarin, making it the better choice for daily use, especially if you already have some kind of blood thinning problem. So probably the Ceylon. You can't go wrong with either. I would prefer to see it non-irradiated, like they flash it to remove bacteria. Kills a lot of the nutrients though. So try to get organic. It's worth it. Another one of the best ways to use cinnamon is to add it directly to the coffee grounds before brewing. It spreads the flavor through the whole pot, and then it helps you avoid the muddy layer of powder sitting at the bottom of the cup. And speaking of flavor, another fat loss benefit of cinnamon is that it makes coffee taste naturally sweeter. So for many people, it becomes the easiest way to remove sugar or flavored creamers without feeling like coffee suddenly, tastes very bitter or you just don't enjoy it black. So it turns your morning cup of joe from fat storing to fat burning. It's level 1. So now the next upgrade is something that has been used as medicine for more than 5,000 years. Ancient Ayurvedic texts actually refer to this as the universal medicine. The modern research is continuing to confirm why that is. I'm talking about ginger, which seems like a strange additive to coffee, but hang with me, it may not be for everybody. But one of the ways ginger supports fat loss is by increasing the number of calories that your body burns while digesting food. Every time you eat, your body has to break down food, absorb the nutrients, and process the food, process the nutrients. All of that work requires energy. Scientists call this the thermic effect of food. Ginger has been shown to increase that calorie burn during digestion. You're literally burning fat, burning calories, just digesting your food. And just like cinnamon, ginger helps your body handle carbohydrates and insulin more efficiently and effectively as well, which means less of what you eat gets pushed into fat storage. And it can even encourage your body to burn more fat while at rest, which is why it outranks cinnamon in our list. It drops to level 2. When adding it to your coffee, you should aim for about a half a teaspoon. You could go up to a full teaspoon of actual ginger powder. That amount is close to what researchers used in studies looking at the metabolic effects. So if you have more than 1 cup, stick to about a half a teaspoon or less for each of those and kind of spread it out because it does have, as you would guess, a more intense flavor. You could consider fresh ginger instead of powder. Fresh ginger tends to contain higher concentrations of the active compounds. You don't have to use quite as much, and that's what gives ginger its fat burning effects. You could grate a small piece just directly into your coffee. That's the simplest way to do it. A simple trick that makes this easier is keeping ginger in the freezer. Frozen ginger grates really easy. Doesn't take long, and it lasts for months without going bad, so you don't have to buy it regularly. You can also pair cinnamon and ginger for an upgrade. The two actually go pretty well together. Cinnamon helps smooth out the blood sugar response after breakfast, while ginger increases calorie burn during digestion. So together, they make coffee that can taste great. Ginger gives it a kind of a spicier coffee. So again, it's maybe not for every palate, but for some of you, you're big ginger fans out there. I know I am, and you can get a little twist or kick to your morning coffee, and it works with your metabolism. Let's go to level 3. The next upgrade comes from something that ancient civilizations valued so highly that they gave it a name that literally means food of the gods. Talking about cacao. Long before chocolate bars existed, cacao was consumed as a drink. I've done videos on this in the past. Ancient civilizations didn't treat it like a dessert. They drank it for energy and focus and endurance. And today, researchers are discovering that cacao affects your metabolism as well. It's because cacao is rich in plant compounds called polyphenols. These compounds help encourage your body to use fat as fuel instead of relying as heavily on sugar as fuel. Cacao also helps another big struggle when it comes to fat loss, and that's cravings. It contains a compound called the bliss molecule. Sounds nice. It interacts with receptors in the brain that create the feeling of pleasure and the feeling of satisfaction. So for people who feel like the brain is still searching and looking for something sweet after breakfast or after dinner, cacao often satisfies that signal naturally. And if you want to add cacao to coffee, there are a few things that make it work much better. First, make sure you use raw cacao powder, not the typical cocoa powder. Many commercial cocoa products are Dutch processed, which means the polyphenols that give cacao its metabolic benefits often degrade in that process of turning it into cocoa powder. Second, the amount matters. A meaningful dose is about 1 to 2 tablespoons per cup of coffee. So this is going to be a coffee mocha for sure. Third, cacao dissolves much better in hot coffee than in cold liquid. So if you're making iced coffee, stir the cacao into a small amount of hot coffee first, then add it to your ice or your cold milk after. And then finally, one small trick that many people like is adding a tiny pinch of salt. Salt reduces the bitterness of the cacao and it smooths out the flavor without needing sugar. Of course, you can also add cinnamon, which does the same thing while providing additional blood sugar benefits and kind of stack it a little bit. They blend together nicely. The result is sort of a Mexican mocha style coffee that supports fat burning while also helping curb cravings. If you want to dig deeper into the amazing benefits of cacao when it comes to endurance, sexual performance, supporting hormones, check out my cacao video of breaking that down. I did it with Nurse Livingood, and it was around our Valentine's Day to help people out, but it's an incredible antioxidant and has a ton of benefits. But in your coffee could be a great option to change up the morning. Now let's go to number 4. This next upgrade works through something that researchers have only started to understand more recently. Your brain has an enormous energy demand. Even though it makes up only a small portion of your body weight, it always baffles me that you could sit at a desk most of your day and be exhausted at the end of the day. So much energy used by your brain. You ever wonder that? It contains a large share of the fuel that your body produces. And when the brain senses that fuel is dropping, it sends a very clear signal. Eat. Most people experience that signal as mid-morning cravings, especially if you have an intense, mentally straining, mentally stressful job. Often for sugar or fast carbohydrates is what the body is searching for. But if you add this one thing to your morning coffee, it can provide your brain with the energy that it needs to turn those cravings off. I'm talking about MCT oil that is typically extracted from coconut oil, or you could just use coconut oil. I'm going to kind of use those two synergistically right now. I usually just use coconut oil. And then if you extract and condense down the coconut oil, you can just pull out the MCTs, the medium chain triglycerides. This is brain fuel. So whether you have access to MCT oil and you want to buy that directly or use coconut, they both have really good benefits. And unlike most fats, the MCTs of that coconut oil are absorbed rapidly and then they're sent straight to the liver. And that's where they're converted into ketones, which your brain can use for energy instead of sugar. And that's what makes them so powerful for fat loss. Coffee and the coconut oil, the MCT oil, they complement each other in this instance. It's because the caffeine helps release stored fat from the fat cells. It essentially unlocks fat so that your body can use it as energy. And then the MCT oil, the extract of the coconut oil, on the other hand, is rapidly converting it into fuel that your body can burn right away, especially your brain. So instead of being stored like most fats, it quickly becomes usable energy. And when the two are used together, caffeine helps release fat from storage, while MCT oil helps push your metabolism toward fat burning for fuel. So instead of extra fat being stored again, your body is more likely to use both sources as energy. Now, if you want to try this in your coffee, there are a few practical tips that make it much better. First, start small. Add just a teaspoon is a good place to start. MCTs that are in coconut oil, they're processed quickly by the digestive system, and jumping straight to large amounts of it could create a little digestive upset. But over time, you can gradually increase and work your way up to a tablespoon of the oil if you can tolerate it well. Second, it helps to blend the coffee instead of stir it. If you just pour oil into coffee, it floats to the top. So blending it helps the oil mix in. Sometimes there's a hand blender. You just pop it straight into the blender is what I do. Creates that creamy texture that people associate with a blended coffee like that. Third, not all MCT oils are identical. And so whether you're getting coconut oil or you're going to buy the extracted MCT oil, look for ones that are cold pressed, ideally organic. You want them to contain a high level of the C8 MCT oil, and that's just a long way of saying caprylic acid. Caprylic acid is one of my favorites. It's really good for the immune system, and MCT oil is very high in it. So that's why some people will get the concentrated version. Personally, I just use coconut oil, but make sure if you're going to get an MCT oil, it's quality. And that caprylic acid converts into ketones better than other forms of MCTs. And then some people also prefer MCT powder. I've used those in supplement forms before, which mixes a little bit more easily, can be gentler on digestion. When it comes to recipes, MCTs from coconut oil pair nicely with cacao and the other ingredients that we've already talked about. So that's why I like to just typically use coconut oil myself, but you could blend it in with your cacao mixture. You could blend it in with your cinnamon mixture. The polyphenols, especially in the cacao, absorb better when consumed with fat. So adding the MCT or coconut oil alongside cacao creates a rich mocha-style coffee that improves both the flavor and the fat-burning power. And finally, I want to mention that if you use coconut oil in your coffee while you're doing something like intermittent fasting, it can help extend your fast, because fasting, the main focus is to keep the insulin we talked about earlier down. Well, coconut oil doesn't spike insulin, so it would be allowable in a drink even if you're fasting. It provides energy without raising insulin, so you can stay in that fat-burning state longer, and it can kind of get you over the hump of maybe a craving in the morning or a craving midday. And again, I just talked about it in my other video, the top 6 foods that won't break your fast. So check that one out. MCT oil is one of those foods. I'll include a link to it in the description below for those of you who are interested in looking at it. So that's number 4. Again, these are stacking and they can be combined, which we'll talk about in just a minute. The next upgrade taps into a pathway that has been getting a lot of attention lately. Right now, millions of people are taking medications designed to mimic a hormone called GLP-1. GLP-1 is one of the hormones that your gut releases when you eat. Its job is to slow digestion and signal to your brain that you're full. That's why drugs like Ozempic work to get weight off. Now, long-term, that weight comes back on because we didn't fix the metabolism. But they amplify that fullness signal so that people naturally eat less and they lose weight. What many people don't realize is that certain foods can support the same pathway in a much healthier way with those side effects. And one of them is collagen protein. When collagen peptides reach the digestive system, they help stimulate GLP-1 release. studies. That means digestion slows down a bit and hunger signals tend to stay lower. And for people trying to lose fat, that can make a big difference because appetite often determines how much you actually eat throughout the day. Researchers have seen this show up in real results. In one clinical trial, participants taking collagen lost more than twice as much weight as the group that didn't take it. Now, if you want to use collagen in coffee, the process is simple. This is one of my favorite. Add 1 scoop of collagen peptides to your cup. It dissolves easily in hot liquid. However, I do recommend allowing your coffee to cool down for a minute or two right after it's brewed before adding it in, because adding it into an extreme heat could have a little bit of an impact to the structure of the peptide itself. So let it cool just slightly, add it in shortly after brewing. That works best. Another helpful habit is drinking a glass of lemon water before your coffee. Not only does this help rehydrate your body first thing in the morning and kickstart digestion, but lemon provides vitamin C. Your body actually needs vitamin C in order to build and use collagen effectively. Collagen also pairs nicely with several of the upgrades that you've already seen. In fact, I call it, and many of you do, call it a DLG coffee, where we add in collagen protein. So we have protein coffee with a little bit of coconut oil. I even do a touch of butter to get that creamy flavor. Blend it, top it off with some cinnamon, a Dr. Livingood special. Or you could go adding it with cacao, the collagen with the cacao, and do that same concoction, protein, cacao, some MCT oil or butter, really helps to control the cravings. So you combine that all together with the oils, you get very steady energy. Again, add a little cinnamon on top, especially if you're using it to reduce sugar inside of your coffee, because you'll still add a little touch of sweetness. And if you want to try the collagen I use, it's the one I put into my coffee most mornings. It's grass-fed collagen peptides blended with nutrients and a little bit of monk fruit. So you get some of that sweetness that a creamer would provide. And so it mixes in easy, tastes good in the coffee, and has the vitamin C included, so your body can actually use the collagen. So if you want to try it out, I'll include a link below. You can check it out. But let's go to level 6, the final upgrade. Let's talk about a plant that many nutrition researchers consider one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Gram for gram, it contains far higher levels of certain nutrients than many of the foods that we eat every single day. Analyses of its leaves have identified more than 90 different nutrients, 46 antioxidant compounds, and because of this, the plant is often called the miracle tree. I'm talking about moringa. What made researchers start paying attention to moringa wasn't just the nutrition, it was the results they started seeing in weight loss studies. In one clinical trial lasting 16 weeks, participants lost as much as 2 to 6 times more weight than the placebo groups, even when diet and exercise were similar. Results like that made scientists start looking much more closely at how this plant affects the metabolism. Turns out moringa works through several fat loss pathways all at the same time. Your liver naturally releases sugar into the bloodstream in between meals. That's going to block fat loss. But the isothiocyanates in moringa can block that sugar production by as much as 60%. Second, those same compounds appear to help break down stored fat faster. And third, moringa seems to actually slow the creation of new fat cells. In other words, it doesn't just help burn fat, it could also make it harder for your body to store new fat in the first place. Now, if you want to add moringa to your coffee, there are a few practical details that make it work better. Most research showing fat loss benefits used about 1 gram per day, which for powders is usually around a half to a teaspoon depending on the product concentration. When you buy it, make sure that you're using moringa leaf powder, not the root or the bark. The leaf is the part traditionally used as food and is considered the safest for daily consumption. Also worth choosing a product that's organic and lab tested. There's a lot of poor quality on the market. Low quality moringa can sometimes contain contaminants or it doesn't have the nutrients that you're looking for. Now, when it comes to recipes, moringa can ruin a cup of coffee quickly. It pairs well though with several upgrades that we've already talked about. But if you just add straight up 1 gram of moringa to your coffee, it's going to add a lot of grassiness to it. Now, if you're okay with that, it works nicely alongside collagen, which helps control the hunger signals. It can be combined with cacao to create a mocha style coffee that helps with cravings. And so you can add it, but my biggest struggle when I loved moringa, and I'm like, what can I put this in? I want to put it in my coffee and I want to use it on a regular basis. So you can either take it capsule form, you could take it powdered form, separate. But in the coffee, I was like, I just want to be able to get it in naturally each day. But I had to get a tasteless version that was organic to still contain all of those nutrients, but that it didn't interfere with a great cup of coffee, because I love a great cup of coffee. So I actually started blending moringa directly into my own coffee. It's organic, it's shade grown, it's lab tested, so that you know exactly what you're getting. But the key was, with the research that we did, is to get it to be tasteless, whether you use beans to have moringa there or the actual ground coffee. But all you tasted was the coffee, not the grassiness of moringa. So that's moringa coffee, and that's what's in my cup this morning. If you want to try it out yourself, you can check the link out below. Or you can add in your own moringa. Just be forewarned of the grassiness that is done. So in my cup, blend together collagen peptides, coconut oil, coffee, moringa, blend that together for a delicious latte, and can sprinkle cinnamon over the top. The only thing I'm missing is ginger and cacao from this list. But upgrading your coffee can help your body release more stored fat. But there's another piece most people miss. The breakfast you eat with that coffee can either help your body keep burning fat or shut that process down almost immediately. So if you want to make sure that your morning routine is actually working with your metabolism instead of against it, you need to know which foods support fat burning during your first meal of the day. That's exactly what I show you in my next video. Eat these 10 breakfast foods every day to get rid of belly fat. It is wildly popular right now. It also includes a free breakfast guide with recipes, which you won't want to miss. I'll include a link to that video here in the description. Click to watch it next, and I'll see you there.